So it's not just about them grazing cattle. They'll chop down a huge 300-400-year-old mahogany tree to get a couple of cups of honey.
Nomadic pastoralists, people who move seasonally with their livestock in search of pasture and water, have been marginalized and ostracized by more sedentary populations for centuries. This phenomenon can be attributed to various social, economic, environmental, and political factors. Nomadic pastoralists require large tracts of land, which they view as a communal resource to be shared, to move with their herds. This brings them into contact with settled agricultural communities who view them as trespassers, leading to conflicts over grazing areas and water resources. The Mbororo people, a nomadic cattle herding group, are an offshoot of the Fulani tribe from Nigeria that drifted into the borderlands of Cameroon and neighboring areas of the Central African Republic, Chad, and the Democratic Republic of Congo in the 1980s. There are an estimated 1 million Umaro, and their movements across the region significantly impact wildlife conservation, particularly in and around protected areas. The Mbororo's large herds of cattle require extensive grazing land, which can lead to overgrazing in areas that are also crucial habitats for wildlife. Overgrazing depletes vegetation, reduces biodiversity, and can lead to soil erosion, ultimately degrading the environment. As available grazing land becomes scarce due to population pressure and environmental changes, the Umaro often move their cattle into protected areas. This encroachment disrupts wildlife habitats, interferes with conservation efforts, and can lead to conflicts with park authorities. Wildlife, particularly predators like lions and hyenas, often prey on Mbororo cattle. In retaliation, herders may poison or kill these predators, leading to a decline in their populations. This direct conflict between livestock protection and wildlife conservation is a significant challenge.
The main cattle problems we have are with the nomadic tribes that are around here. But these guys will move with their cattle through 3-4 different countries where we are: Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon, the CAR. And they could be on this concession for a month now. 2 months from now, they're 300 kilometers away with their cattle and goats and whatever. And then a month later, they're over the border into CAR. So they move freely. They don't have passports. They're a law unto themselves. And often when cattle come into the area and we go to react to the issue, we catch them and these guys are from Nigeria or they're from deep inside Chad. They know that they're not allowed to come into the hunting zones, but they'll come in anyway. A lot of your animals, especially the eland, as soon as there's disturbance from domestic livestock, they move. They will not stay in the same area as cattle, and that's a big concern for us. So it's not like we have a problem with the local communities on our doorstep. These are people that move all over this region. So it's not just about them grazing cattle. They'll chop down a huge 300-400-year-old mahogany tree to get a couple of cups of honey. They'll poison pools of water in the river to get all the fish. The birds come and drink, they get poisoned and so on. And they poach and they cause a hell of a lot of disturbance. It's not just about the cattle. Yeah. They piss off the locals quite a bit as well because their cattle get into their crops in the rainy season. That's how that one tracker of mine got beaten up and all the rest, because he went and gave these guys hell. Their cattle got into his crops and they flipped and smashed his arms, and so they don't like each other. Although these nomads have been living that lifestyle for centuries, the world has changed. The populations in Africa now, compared to even 10 years ago, have increased so much that way of life can't continue. You can't have families moving around with 500, 600 head of cattle. There's not enough land, there's not enough grass to do that. 50 years ago, they moved with their cattle. and barely what they could carry to eat, a bit of corn and maize and so on. Nowadays, they own motorbikes, they've got cell phones, they have medicines, they inoculate their cattle so that a lot of them are not even dying of sleeping sickness. So a lot more cattle are surviving, a lot more of the people are surviving. So on one hand, they're enjoying the benefits of modern day society, but are still living in the past, and that can't continue to work. If you look at a map and look at the conservation areas or the hunting blocks, it's a pinprick on the map. So at all costs, these areas need to be looked after.